Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of One Idiot, One Console, because the other one's at work. Obviously today we're playing a little bit more Timberborn. We didn't really do a ton last episode. Like, brief recap, we obviously got a little bit more progress done here. We finally got them down and into this area so they can build a lot more of this stuff from the ground up, which is way easier and faster. We did run out of water just as the last episode finished, but that's about to fix itself right in a second here. Which should be fine. Which now we're at the point where we're storing enough water, I'm not super worried about it. Damn, our population exploded. We're getting close to 100 beavers now. We did plan out a whole bunch of storage in this area for all kinds of things, mostly water, because water, but also things like maple syrup and extract, catalyst, biofuel. Which I'm thinking it might be about time we set up a bad water collection somewhere. Which I'll think about during this episode. I'm probably going to send them up here for it, but that's kind of going to be difficult. Well, this does flood back into here. I could totally do it down here. Yeah, okay, I'm probably going to set up some bad water collection right in this area here. I also don't need them to be able to get over here really anymore, so... we also set up the groundwork for another area over here, which if you're not clear on how this is going to work, I'm going to essentially use... Where are they? I'm going to use these bridges, the overhangs, and I think that I can make a path for the water to come through, which we have to see how high this will get first. But I think that we can make a secondary little collection area over here, which I'll just set up with its own sluices and everything to feed into this area, or... potentially we clear out the areas over here, divert the bad water and everything, and start colonizing this area. I don't know. We'll see what we're gonna do once we've got that finished and filled up and everything, because it's pretty much just gonna collect the overflow from this one once we've got some overflow, which I'm intrigued to find out how far this is gonna fill up this time. Which we should have no issue with beavers having wet fur in a minute here. Who did what? Somebody knocked over a water bottle. We're fine. $20 says it. Yep, it was Lola. Anyway, I am excited to see how far this fills up. But yeah, other than that, maybe we expand to include this water source. How far up and away is this water source? Yeah, we can maybe expand to include this entire area as one big reservoir. Might not be a bad idea. For now, at least, we've got enough reservoir that, or stored water, rather, that for the most part we're making it through the dry season, so that'll do. Alright, y'all are gonna have to start coming up and around to get that. Which we've also got sluices set up over here to... I'm gonna see if filling up this area will help us fill up this area, and we're gonna find out. Yeah, no, so we're pretty much just doing water stuff this episode and waiting for them to finish up whatever else they're doing. And there's the drought. Which I really should turn on a couple of these. I think I'm going to turn on 4 and see if 4 can keep up with our water demands right now. Actually, it might be time to build one of the bigger water things. Where would I put that? I'd like to put it at the end here so that it goes through everything. Yeah, I could get them... How big is this again? Big. Let me think. Oh, I could put it over here. If I can get them over here. Yeah, because there's not really going to be a good spot for it. Except maybe right here, which I could just delete all of this stuff. Yeah. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and empty these, because I keep meaning to tear down this section anyway, because it's not doing us any good. So we'll go ahead and empty this out real quick. There go the gears. Which means we can go ahead and demolish that one. And then we're just waiting on the planks to get out of here. Let's go ahead and up the priority of these so that somebody hopefully picks them up. Whenever that's empty, I'll come back for it. Alright, I said it before during this batch, but I think this is going to be the last batch, so... batch for this batch filming, so... If you've been annoyed by something stupid that I've been doing, it should end now. Let's... I think I could put another grill up there. Let's start setting up for, potato, because I said that I would do that once I had some more stuff going. Let's put, like... did I make one of these potato storage? I don't really need the gear storage. Let's make this potato storage, and then we'll put maybe even another layer on this. Yeah, let's, I'm about to make that big storage area down here, hopefully, so... Yeah, I should start working on that. Whoop, not that. Yes, please. Alright, that go there. Whoop, too far. That go there. That could go there. Then I could get them around that back there, so... We'll start like that. We'll do carrots in one of these. I think I'm only gonna store the finished food in these. We'll see how well that goes. Grilled spatterdock, and then we'll set up for some of the pastries ahead of time as well. Oh good, we have so much wood storage now. And we're gonna have some more plank storage, or we already do have some more plank storage. Next up's metal. They're already using them, that's excellent. Hi, Lolas. Do you want to join me for an episode again? Do you? Oh, come here. There you go. Get yourself all comfy, boo. I don't know, maybe we should just, anytime Lola joins, have a deep discussion about something. I don't know what I'd talk about. I don't know, I think it would be fun to be one of those YouTubers, though, where the vibe is we have deep discussions. Damn, am I already in the fucking dry season? How much water did I get? Lolas. Lolas. Alright, this is good. By next season, I think we'll have this whole thing done. Can I reach these from this side? No. Cool. Let's go ahead and raise the priority of these a little bit and just see how much we can get done by next wet season. I'm hopeful that we'll have this entire reservoir filled up next wet season, which would be really nice. Which it's also starting to... We should definitely get this done as well. Which we're already going that way as well. Perfect. Lolas. I don't know, I'm trying to think about something to talk about. Because I would like to do that, you know? I watch YouTubers where they'll have like a deep discussion while doing something tedious. Specifically, I watch Flow State. But I don't know, I like that vibe. Maybe I start writing down topics that I might want to discuss. Well, I mean, I just saw something interesting. I was watching... Obviously, I watch YouTube. I play on YouTube, clearly. If you're... I think all YouTubers watch YouTube. I mean, I can't say that for certain. If I ever get big enough that I'm going to cons and stuff and talking to other YouTubers, I'll ask. But... Yeah, So I watch YouTube, obviously. I was watching a video where it was either, I think it was a Tumblr discussion that had happened, and they were talking about how it's weird to them that, like, there's a discussion now about, on TikTok apparently, about, like, oh, we should be banning kids from grocery stores, like, toddlers from grocery stores because they might be annoying, and it was like, yeah, but, like, if you ban toddlers from grocery stores, then you have school-aged kids that don't know how to behave in grocery stores, and if you ban them too, then you've got teenagers, which is way worse, and if you ban teenagers, then you've got adults that don't know how to behave in grocery stores, and, like, oh man, like, I see this going in a bad direction, because people are real on lately about the concept of, like, oh yeah, uh, people are really on lately about the concept of, like, yeah, we should be, like, banning kids from different places, and I'm like, yeah, like, there's an extent where it's like, there were the kids that were going crazy in Sephora and, like, messing up all the beauty products and everything, and I'm of the mindset that, like, yes, that is a problem, right? Obviously, that's a problem. There's no way that that's not a problem, but, like, the issue is becoming that society is taking it as a problem with, like, everybody but the parents, essentially. And that's a bad thing, you know? Like, we're getting to a point where, like, I mean, could you imagine if you were a kid and you literally couldn't go anywhere in public? Like, you'd be a menace, right? I know I would have been a menace. And I would have been a menace not because I wouldn't have known how to behave, but because, like, and this is a discussion that keeps happening and keeps happening, and the fact that it keeps happening means people need to be paying attention. Like, there's no third places anymore, and the whole concept of third places is basically, like, so you've got, if you're a kid, you've got home. Sorry, the cat's looking all over the place at something. You're freaking me out, man. You've got home and you've got school, right? And those are two places where, like, you exist and you're not expected to spend money, you're allowed to be there, right? And then the problem becomes, like, there's no other places, though. So, like, you're either at home or you're at school, and there's just nowhere else for you to be. Where you're, like, especially and specifically where you don't have the expectation of spending money, which becomes a problem if there's no third places. What are you looking at? Man, the Greebles are out in force tonight. But it becomes an issue because if there's nowhere else that you can just be you, like, there's nowhere for you to get away from your parents, there's nowhere for you to get away from authority, you know, and just hang out for a little bit. Which, like, a lot of people hear the whole, like, there's nowhere for you to get away from authority, and they take that to be a bad thing, you know? They're like, oh, kids should be fine with authority, and it's like, yeah, okay. But, like, you know, like, you expect to be able to go home and go to your house and or apartment or wherever the fuck you live, you know, you expect to be able to go to those places and to exist without the expectation of anything. That's Lola. Lola moved the screen. Thank you for whacking my keyboard. But no, like, you expect to be able to go home and live under your own rules and do what you want and not have to worry about the expectations of others or, like, whether or not you're, like, following the ambient rules of every other space, you know? Like, you expect to be able to do that, but for some reason kids aren't allowed to be able to do that. Because they either, like, either at school, where there's strict rules and they have to follow these rules. Like, they have to ask to use the bathroom, which is fucking ridiculous. And, like, I understand why it happens. Like, yeah, the school is in charge of these kids, and if they're not, like, specifically paying attention to what's going on, something bad could happen. And I do understand that. But also, like, you know, they should be able to use the fucking bathroom. Even if they are skipping class to use the bathroom, who fucking cares at that point? Like, that's a whole other discussion. We should not be punishing schools for the behavior of the kids that are in them, because that's something that's happening. I live in a state where the current notion is we should be, apparently what they figure is we should be increasing the length of the school days and essentially getting even stricter, which is not a good idea. And also that we should be doing the thing, again, which did not work before, where we should be taking away money from school districts that are not doing well. Can you please stop with the keyboard, Lola? She just wants to be involved. Poor thing. I'm gonna put you down on the floor if you can't stop. But that's an entirely different discussion, and that is a problem. But, you know, it's, anyways, like, you go from school where there's strict-ass rules, and then you go to home where there's equally strict rules. Like, even if your parents are fair, there's still strict rules, and you're still not allowed to just do whatever you want to do. You know? Like, there's nowhere for kids to hang out where they're not under the expectation of doing something, you know? And that's a problem, you know? Like, I went crazy under those rules, you know? And it's like, I don't think that the majority of kids want a place to go where they can vandalize things or anything like that. I think that that kind of expression is almost solely, hi Dirk, whoever you are, if you watch the channel, hi. um, but I think, I think that that's almost 100% of the time directly an outcome of not having anywhere to have that expression. You know, to like just do whatever the hell they want to do. Cause like, yeah, you know, like people almost unanimously agree it would be bad to live in a totalitarian government, right? It would be bad to live somewhere, like, it would really not be fun to live somewhere where the expectation is like you are 100% of the time exactly what the government wants you to be. Like, you know, they control what haircut you can have. That would be bad, right? And they control, like, what you can eat and when you can eat, and they control, like, even to the point of, like, you can't go home and say I don't like the president. You know, if you get caught saying that at home, you'll be imprisoned. You know, like, that would be bad, right? Kids live under that, you know? And like, it doesn't seem that extreme, but like, really, like, yeah, your parents do a lot of the time tell you yes or no to whether or not you can cut your hair a certain way, you know? And like, if they don't tell you yes or no to that, then they do tell you yes or no to whether or not you can dye it, you know? And while I'm not saying that kids should have complete freedom to do whatever the hell they want to do, like, there needs to be somewhere where they have that wiggle room of like, yeah, like, if you go home and in front of your mom or dad, like, it kids, like, people watching this who are 20 and above, if you had gone home and in front of your mom or dad said what the fuck, what would have happened, you know? What would have happened to you in that moment? Like, it would not have been fun, you know? There would have been a problem, right? But also, we knew those words. The vast majority of us. Like, we were at school saying those words when teachers couldn't hear. And I'm not talking about, like, elementary school kids. Like, this is teenage stuff, for the most part. I did know the fuck word at 12, but that was my friend's fault. But no, like, you know, like, there's... You can't go home and just say whatever you want to say, you know? And you can't go home and just do whatever you want to do if you're still a kid or a teenager. So they need those third places to be able to go let that energy out, you know? To be able to talk about what they want to talk about and to be able to do what they want to do. And I'm not saying, like, I don't think that if we did this for kids, that it would turn into, like, oh yeah, now we've got people that very, very much vandalize everything. I really don't think that it would turn into that. I think that it would turn into a little bit of a healthier society, because at that point kids aren't so worried about, like, they at least have somewhere that they can just do and say what they need to, you know? Because that's, like, especially, like, from my perspective, that's what I needed. I had extremely strict parents. Like, from what I've talked to with other kids, I might as well have been living under a totalitarian regime as a kid. Oh, hey, 14. I might as well have been, like, and it was, like, yeah, I was allowed to do some things that other kids weren't allowed to do, but it was also, like, I was very much, like, they perceived me as a troubled teen, and if you know that, you know that, but they perceived me as a bad kid pretty much from the time I got into high school. Like, I got into high school and suddenly I was going to be a troublemaker. I was going to drink. I was going to smoke. I was going to do drugs. You know, and like, they, instead of taking their role as parents as we're gonna just be parents, they were taking their role as, like, we now need to police this child so that he doesn't get himself into trouble. And I'm like, that's not what I needed. You know, like, there was no time in my life where I needed to be policed so that I did not get into trouble, and it caused all of the trouble. You know, and like, for the most part, when I tell adults about this, I'm like, yeah, my immediate next reaction was like, because I was in trouble for something all the time, in trouble for something. And usually it wouldn't even be something I did. You know, so after a while it was like, okay, like, I might as well be in trouble for a reason. Like, you want to see a bad kid, I'll show you one. You know? And Like, that's bad. You know, and I think that we should be able to agree that that is pretty much universally bad. Like, we should not be doing that to kids. But then the problem is, like, people don't seem to understand that. And it seems like it would be obvious to me, but it's not, you know? Parents don't always seem to understand. If you are too strict with your kids, they are going to rebel. Same as if you're not strict enough, they're gonna turn out bratty, you know? And there's a balance, and I don't think that it's an easy thing to find, but I also don't think that sometimes I don't think that people are really trying anymore. You know, like you hear all these stories about like, oh yeah, a kid did XYZ thing, you know, and you're like, wow, really? Like, who the hell was allowing their child to run around in Sephora and mess up all the makeup, you know? And like, who the hell is allowing their kid in the milk aisle to sit there and open all the milk and dump it out on the floor? You know, like there are parents that suck at parenting, you know, and are way too relaxed. And I don't think that those parents were always necessarily the product of like, oh, like either they had way too strict of parents so they went the opposite direction entirely, because I'm that person, you know, and I've talked a lot and thought a lot about what I would be like if I had kids, and it wouldn't be like, oh yeah, they're just allowed to run around and do whatever the hell they want, you know, like there's gonna be rules. But like, you know, it's the difference between there's parents that think, did I not pick something for that? Oh damn. I want to try and tear down all of the metal all over the place. But it's the difference between like what the hell was I saying? This is the problem. I get sidetracked so easily. Oh, there's parents that think that don't say no means literally never tell your kid that they can't do something. And there's parents that understand that don't say no means, like, don't just tell your kid no because I said so. You know? Because like, really, that's never gonna help. You know, like, it should never be a because I said so thing. And, like, I know because I was the kid that if you said because I said so, I'm gone. There's no chance anymore. You've screwed up. I'm not paying attention to anything that you've said anymore. You're just fucked. Because, like, yeah, it's, you messed up. You just immediately took it from, like, I respect you as an authority figure to I do not think that you care what my perspective is. And that's another big issue, is people, like, I commented off of that video. I said I never expected to live in a world where children should be seen and not heard. You know, and like those words, those are familiar words to most of us. You know, we've heard those in relation to something. Usually it's because back before like the suffrage movement and everything, like it was women should be seen and not heard, you know? Like women shouldn't have an opinion, women shouldn't be allowed to do these things, right? And then it's interesting because it's another one where like there's all of these double standards and you don't really see them until you're an adult, right? And it's like the most interesting one to me is for some reason it's okay to treat kids like they're just dumb animals and don't know what the hell they're doing and everything. But like obviously it's not okay to treat an adult like that. You know, any adult. It shouldn't be anyway, and if it's not obvious to you, you're on the wrong channel, buddy. But like it's one of those things where like for some reason we understand like yeah, women should have rights, right? But then kids almost universally don't have the same rights. And I'm like, yeah, I don't expect them to need the right to vote. You know, like that's to a degree unreasonable, but I wish that they would have more of a say in their own lives, you know. And again, like this stems from things that happened to me. Like I don't want to go big into it because I don't think that anybody really wants to hear, but like I was sent away as a teenager. And the place I was sent away to was hell, and one of the biggest reasons it was hell was because every waking moment of my life was policed. You know, like I had to check in. If I was out of sight, I had to go find my specific staff member every 30 minutes and just like yell, hey, checking in. You know, like literally every 30 minutes, whatever I was doing. you know? Like, it was to the point where, like, if I was in the bathroom at that 30-minute mark, I had to figure out how to get done with whatever the hell I was doing or I would be in trouble. So, like, yeah, parts of this does stem from that, but, like, having had those experiences, it's opened my eyes to the concept of, like, kids really don't have a say in their lives. Like, not at all, you know? Like, it's, and when you're young enough, sure, but, like, once you hit teenage years, it's, you have to start letting these kids have a say. You have to start allowing them to do things that they want to do and express themselves the way that they want to express themselves. Like, you can't, it should never be the way that it was for me as a teenager. Because for me as a teenager, like, as an 18 or 17-year-old, it was, you must have both a job and do an extracurricular. Initially, the job had to be full time, you know? Like, you have to have both of these things. And I'm like, that's completely unreasonable, you know? Like, for some extracurriculars, sure, but, like, they weren't okay with it just being like, oh, I'm gonna go to anime club once a week, or I'm gonna go to art club once a week, you know? Like, it had to be a real extracurricular. Originally, it was supposed to be a sport, and I managed to talk them down to, okay, I'm gonna be in the play. You know? I love acting. And, like, I got fired from my job because they didn't, somehow it didn't get processed, my time off request that was approved for the weekend of the play. And because of that, that was the only reason that they finally allowed me to not have both a job and force me to do an extracurricular at the same time. But then they decided for me that the thing that I had to have was the job. You know, and I was like, I don't want to have a job, you know? Maybe I wanted, like, the kids that I had been in the play with were like, you definitely have to join the musical, you know? Like, I had the only singing part in the play, and every single kid that was in it with me was like, you have to join the musical. Like, you've got the voice for it. You're amazing, you know? Like, you have to be in it. We want you to be there. You know, and I had to keep telling these kids, like, I'm really sorry, but I have a job. You know, like, the play was one thing. We only met once a week for the first, like, 3 months of it, and then we met, like, 3 or 4 times a week until the week of the play, and then, yeah, we met every day for that to do dress rehearsals and mic checks and everything. But, like, you know, it was like, okay, there's, like, that's one thing where, like, I only really needed to get a week off of work. But, like, it's an entirely different thing when we're gonna be meeting, like, basically every day, because it's, like, my school, we were really good. That school was particularly good about, which that school is not in the state I live in anymore. But that school was specifically really good about, like, yeah, we care about the fine arts and we care about sports. So, like, we had the football team that went to state every single year, but we also had gigantic theater productions, you know? Like, we were good at what we did and we loved it, you know? And I really wanted to be a part of it, but, like, there wasn't an option for me. I wasn't allowed to, like, be in the musical. Even though I wanted to be in the musical, I had to have a job. And this was not because my family was poor. My family had the money to send me off to a place where they were paying literally something like $10,000 a month for me to be there. And I was gone for almost 2 years. You know, like, this was not a lack of money. This was not I needed to support my family. If it had been, I wouldn't have minded. But I should have been the kid that had the option. There was no reason why I wouldn't be the kid that had the option. That was the expectation, was that I was the kid that had the option. Like, I was not, like, it should have always been that I was able to be in the play and do whatever I wanted to do, you know? And like, that's one of those things where I'm like, I don't know if I even should forgive my parents for it. Because, like, I didn't need to do this. You didn't need to police me to this extent. There was no reason. There was just no reason. And yet, for some reason, like, you know, I now had to live the thing that I've heard so many stories about, you know, in books, where it's the kid, like, you know, really genuinely wants to do the thing, but, like, actually does have to help support the family. Like, now I'm in that position, and my dad is literally probably a multimillionaire. You know, and, like, if you watch this, Dad, I'm sorry I'm talking about us online, but also, like, to be fair, these people have no idea who either of us are. You know? And, like, these are the things that, like, it's difficult to talk to my parents about these things, because it's, like, ever since, you know, it's the side effect that they didn't expect. You know, the thing that they never realized they were causing was now I can't go to them. Now I can't trust them. I don't expect them to help me. You know, and, like, I've been in a position for a while now where, like, my dad has been helping me with rent and with bills and stuff, and I'm so fucking grateful to him. I needed that help desperately. Like, this, trust me, this was going to be a bad situation a lot of different times if he had not helped me. But, like, also, I'm now stuck in this weird position where, like, I have to rely on my dad for help a lot of the time until we can get to a point where we don't anymore. And also, like, I can't trust him. You know? Like, ever since everything happened, like, you can't send a kid away and expect that kid to still trust you. You know? And I feel like most kids would understand that. I feel like most adults of my age would understand that, but for some reason, and they've said it, and I've forgiven them for this. I have forgiven them for this. Well, I've forgiven my dad. My mom hasn't really made an effort to be forgiven. But I've forgiven my dad for this because he has, like, he's said it multiple times, like, their biggest regret, or at least I believe his biggest regret, was sending me away. So, like, you know, that's great, and I'm appreciative that at least he recognizes that what he did was wrong, and that what he did destroyed trust, but I don't think that either of them understand the extent to which it did. You know, because I'm like, you know, think about, if you don't get it, think about it from this perspective. Like, if you've lived your life and you know, like, you wake up every day and you know what to expect, you know you're going to go to school. You know you're going to do this, you know you're going to do that, you know you're going to see your friends in the morning, right? And then one day you wake up and all of that is gone for 2 years. And 2 years of your life, you have to go live somewhere that you don't want to be. And you have to listen to the people around you convince your parents actively that you are a bad kid, and that you are a liar, and that you cannot be trusted. You know, and then think about what that would do to somebody. Because it doesn't do good things. And that's where, like, you know, and it's, I'm trying not to talk about myself anymore. But, like, yeah, and that's, like, that's where they don't seem to understand, you know? And it's like, okay, but, like, you did this, you know? And then I see a lot of other parents that do similar things, you know? And, like, now it's these kids don't have a say in their own lives. And that's terrifying to me. Like, I watch other kids not have a say in their own lives, and I went through not having a say in my own life. I went through really and truly feeling helpless. Like, there was nothing to be done. Like, there was no saving me. There was nowhere. There was nothing. There was no chance of me ever being okay again, you know? Like, I went through that. I had to experience that. I had to experience the betrayal of knowing that your parents did this to you. Knowing that if it weren't for them, you wouldn't be in this hell. You wouldn't be experiencing what you're experiencing. You know? And it feels like a lot of parents forget that, like, having seen this kind of thing firsthand, it's just, I think a lot of parents forget that kids are real people, you know? Kids aren't just mindless zombies that do what you ask them to do. Kids are people. Sorry, I'm testing something real quick. And kids experience things in a way that adults do as well. but they don't have, like, the only difference between me as a teenager and me now is experience. It's purely that I know what's going on, you know? That's the only difference. And yet it was okay, as a kid, to just send me away and do what you wanted with me. You know, like, get rid of me. As a kid, it was okay to just go, we don't really want a kid anymore. Like, we don't want to deal with this kid, you know? It was okay for them to do that to me as a kid. But now it's not as an adult, you know? And having lived where it's not okay, I don't understand how it ever could have been in the first place anymore. Because it never should have been. And I don't know, sorry, we got off topic. It's just, I think that kids need more rights. I think that kids deserve a say in what happens to them. I don't think that any kid should ever be in a position where they don't believe that they can control what's going to happen to them. Because, like, just think about how horrifying that is for a second. Just never, like, understanding well and truly that you do not have a say in what happens to you. You know? And then think, why is that okay that we do that to kids then? If it wouldn't be okay to wake you up and put you in a van and haul you away to somewhere you've never seen and somewhere you didn't consent to be, if it wouldn't be okay to do that to you, why would it be okay to do that to a kid? Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. The conclusion is basically don't be horrible. And kids are people too. Anyway. So what I'm doing here is I'm starting the structure for the thing that I intend on making, which is basically just, which I'm realizing now I might not actually have to use these. Do these actually use less materials? They might not. They really might not. Okay, let me see. 36 for an overhang that's roughly 3 off the ground. So 36 planks for 6 by 3. Hang on, we're doing math. We are doing math. So we've got 18 times 10. So that would be 180. Yeah, so the overhangs are worth it. Cool. Now we know. Yes, that is the right spot. And there's the drought. Okay, so this is going to be the last one where I need that big of one. I think. Yep. And then the rest of them I'm going to need a 5 long, which I'll go ahead and just unlock now. And then we'll put in the infrastructure ahead of time, which is going to be, yeah, 2 more of these. And these. If this works the way I want it to, this is going to be so cool. This is going to be the best idea I've had in this game. Music, be proud of me. Which, if you don't know who I'm referencing when I say music and you haven't, like, at that point you haven't been in the comment section yet, there is a commenter who actually knows how to play this game, and I don't even pretend to, and he comes through, or she, I don't know, music has not confirmed, the commenter comes through and tells me basically what I've done wrong. And then we have a fix-it episode where I go back through and correct all of the dumb that I did. Can I set that to demolish? Good. Alright, let's see what kind of progress we've made. So, that does fill up in the way that I hoped it would, which is excellent. It doesn't seem to fill quite up to the top, but that's okay. These are auto open, closed, open, closed. Alright, that's part of it. I want to see what happens if I auto close these. Is that one of you? You're right there. I heard what almost sounded like a very sad cat noise. I can't tell if the water level is doing literally anything. Let's see. Let's watch this little teeny tiny bit. Yeah, okay, I don't think that the water level is rising. Okay, good to know. Good to know. So that means that this is not producing any more water once we hit a certain height. Cool. Alright, alright. So let's set that back to auto. Okay, so this should still produce enough water that it'll flow over. We just need to finish this bit. Which we are well on our way to. Alright, let's go ahead and raise the priority a little bit of these, because I would rather they get this done first than continue on in a straight line. And then those barely take anything, so somebody just hit it with a hammer while you're over there. Cool beans. Alright. Which I am glad we finally got the observatory going, because that's, for less time than these take, that produces 10 times as much, which is why we now no longer have issues. Alright. Once they've completed this staircase, you know, let's just add it to the queue. Because that'll also, I think, be less beavers to do the... Or no, I think it's the same, but it ends up with more riverfront space available for you to do whatever the hell you want with. You being the player. Oh. Me. Let's test this. Also, in a drought. God, I'm dumb sometimes. It's okay. We're fine. Everything's fine. Alright, so the next thing that I need to set up is a grist mill, which I believe takes power. Yes. Not much, though. So, I'm gonna just set that up ahead of time. Which I'm gonna build a better power thing soon. Because in the world that I was playing with I keep doing that, with my counterpart on the channel, I was doing, like, we came up with a lot of what I think is pretty innovative stuff. I'm gonna have one for wheat flour as well. I think I eventually need 2 for wheat flour, because Cattail pretty much only makes the crackers. Jesus, don't tap me out of nowhere, Lola. Okay, good, I can go over that. So let's do... Nope, that's wheat flour. Cattail flour and cattail crackers. And then for that one, we could probably go ahead and set up ahead of time. I don't know why I feel the need to have it specifically face the direction that I'm facing, or toward me. Let's start with just bread here, because then we don't need... Oh wait, no. Hang on, I'm doing this wrong. We don't need this to be cattail crackers, we need this to be the cattails, and then for here we've got the flour, and we need it to be wheat. There we go. I got there. And then I don't think that we need power for the bakery. No, we don't. Cool. So now we figure out where we want to put the bakery. Which I guess we could just put them up here. Or we could see, is there a spot that would be convenient closer to here? Because then, if we put these all here, 3 recipes, yeah, so 3 will be good for now. If we put these all right here, come on, there we go, then we don't have the later issue of trying to figure out, or of worrying whether or not this stuff's gonna get into storage quickly enough. Which I think we already have. Bread, maple pastries. Yeah, we don't have cattail crackers. That's the one I'm missing. Alright. Cattail crackers, there we go. That one's set up for potatoes. Why did I not set this area up for potatoes? I was gonna do that. I think I got sidetracked doing other stuff. My bad. Let's see if they can reach that. Yeah, they can reach that. Perfect. Alright, and then let's see. Should be able to squeeze some little extra ones in. I don't know if we can plant them. Well, they were green, the bushes were, so theoretically. Yeah, they're planting there. Alright, cool. Perfect. Perfect. Alrighty. I'm gonna unmark all of those for demolition so that it stops bugging me. Oh damn, and we are already over time. So, sorry. If you did not enjoy the talking, sorry I talked your ear off the whole episode. Please do let me know if you liked that or not, because if you liked the discussion, I will continue to have them. If you did not like the discussion, I will stop. I just need you guys to let me know. And anyway, on that note, as always, thank you for hanging out with me. I do genuinely enjoy your company, and I hope you have a good day, night, whatever it is for you. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!